Hello, my name is Deshawn Williams, and I'm doing my senior project on education reform, quality skills that support 21st century education. Um, Basically, when you talk about education reform, you're talking about the word reform, which means to make changes in something in order to improve it. So, when you're making changes to something, especially when it deals with education, what you're saying is that education reform is the name given to a demand with the goal of improving education. So basically, what we're trying to do is give you a synopsis on what it means to give quality education while at the same time reforming education. Now, the problem that we run into when you're dealing with that is the first thing is teachers lack the quality skills and development opportunities that allow them to become effective 21st century educators for our children and for our young adults and our teenagers. Um, and this lack of development or this lack of being able to be skilled in their particular craft causes the students to not be able to accomplish the needed goals set through the policies and so forth concerning the national and the state board levels of education. Now, in Oklahoma, which is the state that I live in, the students' ranking are 13 to 37% lower in percentage than the national averages. And this really highlights the need for strengthening our education system. This research basically exposes the failings of policies and procedures and things that are brought about within the educational system that are causing our children not to produce quality test scores or above average test scores, and some not even average at all, in order to compete in this ever changing world, the 21st century. The background concerning reform of education back in August 1981, the Secretary of Education was Honorable T.H. Bell. Now, what he did was he created a board with board members, of course, and the name of that board was the Commission on Excellence in Education. And what their function was to go into the education system on a national and promoting on a state level, go in and try to make these needful improvements to our education system and to try to reform it so that it would produce higher test scores. The teachers would be skilled in their crafts, and any much needed improvement that need to be made concerning education. In the state of Oklahoma alone, 52% of Oklahoma's funding at one time back in 1965 came from local revenue. Now you can see where that would become a problem, because if your school or if you were in a district where the local revenue wasn't as high, it might have been on the lower financial scale rather than being the upper middle class or upper class type of revenue coming into your community. You can see where there would be a lack of funding for quality education. So as time went on, we see in the 1980s, funding came from the state, which was about 66%, rather than 52%, and it lowered it from 52% to 22% in the local revenue. And this school funding kind of set the stage to increase quality education in at least the Oklahoma state education school system. And this was setting the stage basically to provide quality education for our students. Another thing, when we started to look, when the research was started to looking back towards education reform, we had to measure the ability of our teachers, how much quality education they were putting out versus what was actually being obtained by the students themselves. Now, in order to combat this, I have two courses of actions. The first course of action is professional development. The second course of action is community partnership. Now, professional development is where we educate our teachers in improving the achievement of their skills and the knowledge of their actual craft. We begin to make it an obligation for all teacher educators to kind of safeguard the quality of teaching instruction. Educators was constantly needing to advance themselves in order to keep up with the demand of society and technology. And problems did kind of arise when the fact that there really wasn't enough time to get these professional development courses or classes or continuing education. And that really became not a big problem, but it nonetheless became a problem. Another course of action was community partners, and that being beneficial to education reform. Now, how can that be beneficial, you might ask? Well, what it does is assist in the training and professional development of our teachers. Whereas if there is a math teacher that knows maybe your elementary math education versus somebody that is a mathematician, as far as being an accountant in that specific area, whereas they can come in and they can give specific training on certain things that may not have been touched on in the basic schooling of the teachers or the educators. Community partners also alleviated stress on the teachers, where they would come in and kind of give the teachers a break and, basically teach the kids on their level on some of the things that were going on in the community that would help them be successful in school and in the social life. Also, community partners would in turn maybe do a lot of volunteer work, but the downside to community partnership as well is some partners may not be professionally trained, those that are in that community, so sometimes the need for professionalism may not be there. Now, what I recommend, the choice that I choose is professional development, because it helps the educators understand the need for continuing education. Why? You have in-service workshops and seminars. The students perform well academically if the teachers are performing well and keep abreast on the quality of their craft. Professional development of teachers, educators is also used as an important means to preserve the awareness of the profession and to endorse personal specialized growth. If I am aware of how I need to grow as a teacher, then the students would in turn, I will put that off to my students, and they will become more aware of how important it is to be a professional. How I implemented this particular strategy is, first of all, the school receives yearly report cards and assessments, and they are graded on their performance. The administration research various professional development courses, and then they align themselves with educators. Educators review the report card and then view available trainings. Administrator informs the professional development courses and make them mandatory quarterly. And when they don't comply, their punishment or their penalty would be not being able to take leave until those any type of leave until those courses have been completed. Now, in conclusion, the purpose of my research was basically to increase the responsiveness, the awareness, and the benefits of education reform. putting a demand on community partners, and partners making better development of students in our schools, and using the community to create better prototypes within our community. The community partners will continue to play an active part in the lives of our students, and therefore effective programs of partnerships that are well designed and implemented have been linked to positive outcomes for students, teachers, and parents. Thank you. I went over. Is it off?